morning. Oh, lucky us. What do you
Lucky
mean?
us.
Look, he flirted with it for a really long time. Barnaby Joyce loves a headline, and now he is, well, an independent. How long is he going to be independent for, David?
Well, he says he's undecided still as to whether he's going to join One Nation or just leave Parliament at the end of this term, maybe do something in business. I would be amazed, guys, if he doesn't join One Nation. I mean, come on. The Wagyu steak dinner on the sandwich press, that made for social media moment with Pauline Hanson. He even defended her burqa stunt in the Senate this week. He says he's strongly considering joining One Nation. This does not look like someone who's genuinely undecided here. Look, you know, it may still be a bit of time before we see him take a final position on this, but we know he had a big policy win on net zero, convincing the Nationals they should ditch the target, and yet he's still out the door. He is complaining about where he's seated in the Parliament, right up the back in the ejection seat, he says. And what does that tell us? It tells us he doesn't feel like he has enough influence. He wants more influence. He wants more power. He wants more relevance. And he thinks he'll get that by being a part of One Nation and potentially succeeding Pauline Hanson at some point as the leader of One Nation in the Senate, where he can have more influence.
David, at least publicly, the Nationals don't seem to be too upset. They're not shedding any public tears. But should they be worried? Are they more worried than they're making out?
Catherine, some of them aren't shedding tears at all. One texted me last night to say they've moved through the stages of grief very quickly and landed on joy. Others, however, are a bit more disappointed and worried about what this is going to mean. Matt Canavan, someone who's been perhaps the closest to Barnaby Joyce over many years, was his chief of staff at one point. He is urging David Littleproud, the leader, to reach out to Barnaby Joyce over the summer and try and win him back. It's still not too late. I doubt that's going to happen. But yeah, look, some are concerned about what this will mean. Barnaby Joyce, we know One Nation's already on the rise. Did well at the election. They've risen in the polls since then. Barnaby Joyce is one of the most high-profile politicians in the country, certainly on the Conservative side. He talks to regional Australia very effectively. If he goes to One Nation, he will be trying to bring with him the grassroots membership of the National Party, the donors to the National Party, and the voters as well. So yes, the Nationals do need to work out how they're going to deal with this new challenge. Are they going to take the gloves off with Barnaby Joyce? This is going to be really interesting to see.
They did support him through a lot, didn't they? I mean, Barnaby Joyce has had a few ups and downs, let's put it that way.
That's right.
Goodness me, they've had to eat a few sandwiches of a certain variety. But anyway, let's talk about the environment. These laws have been, there's a deal finally done. Why did the government work with the Greens and not the Coalition here? Because a lot of business people said, come on, let's get a bipartisan position here.
Yeah, look, that's true. The official reason is the Coalition were a shambles. They were too difficult to deal with. They had too many cooks involved, too many people wanting different things from the Coalition. Murray Watt says it just was a bit of a mess. The Greens were far more straightforward to deal with. That may well be true. I think the political reason, though, too, here for Labor is that some of their MPs, particularly those in more progressive parts of the country, were really worried if they did a deal with the Coalition, the ones they've been labelling climate deniers, then they would be vulnerable to an attack from the Greens. The Greens would spend the next 2.5 years coming after Labor MPs saying, you guys don't have any credibility on the environment, you've just done a deal with this right-wing rabble in the Coalition. So that was what was going on in the background. Look, the outcome here is a win for Labor and for the Greens. For Labor, this has been years of trying to get to this point. It's a big legislative reform to finish the parliamentary year on a wildly successful political year for the government. For the Greens, they've shown they're more pragmatic than they were in the last term. They can work with the government. Sarah Hanson-Young said yesterday, we're the real opposition here. That's what's going on for the Greens here. And it's an improvement for the environment on the current laws that we have. So they've taken that and negotiated a bit more where they can. For the Coalition, this has left them on the sidelines. Business groups disappointed. Some of them are blaming the Coalition for not being more organised and more effective in their negotiations. So it really was an end to the parliamentary year for the Coalition that, I guess, told the story of what's been a shocking year for them, all told.
David, you're also sprightly in the morning. You're flawless on a Sunday morning on Insiders. We're talking about what songs get us up and going for the day on News Breakfast. So I've got to ask you, and I might even mimic what you're doing because it's definitely working. What's your song?
I don't know, maybe wake me up before you go. Let's crank that one out this morning, get us going. I don't really have a go-to song, but that's the first one that popped
Wake
in my
Me Up
head.
Before You Go. I like that. I'm going to give that one a go. David Spears, thank you so much. So good to
Thanks,
have
guys.
double David this week.
He's a
do it
good
again.
sport, isn't he?
He is.
He's puts up with us. Don't miss Insiders with David Spears and his special guest, Nationals leader David Littleproud. I reckon some tea will be spilled at 9 a.m. on ABC TV. You can watch it anytime you like on ABC iView.